Hey friends, welcome to Chubby Tales. My happiness knew no bounds when I got myself enrolled with the Bar Association of Maharashtra and Goa, which means I became a practicing lawyer at the age of 24. The next day, excitedly, I reached office with pedas for my senior Mr. Gunashekaran, who was a stalwart in taxation during those times. He gave me a shock of my life when, in exchange of those pedas, he entrusted me with papers of an ongoing case, instructing, Shilpa, this is your baby now. I'm traveling tomorrow and will be back in the evening to hear good news. Go, argue your first matter. These are final arguments and be successful, okay? What? No. But, sir, I just got my license to practice only today and you want me to argue tomorrow? That too a final argument? Of course, he said firmly. Come on now. I do not want to know. Don't waste your time and start preparing for the arguments. It was not as if I'd never been to courts. Of course, I had accompanied Sir several times as his assistant, but never argued a matter ever before in my life. During those times, there were absolutely no women practicing tax lawyers. Usme young women? Nah. Tax tribunals used to be full of old, extremely experienced men lawyers in their 50s and or even 60s. Next day arrived. My case was listed last. That means it may never reach, or the judges may hear it post-lunch. I had time to recoup my nervousness. As I entered the courtroom, I felt everyone was staring at me. With scared face, shivering like a leaf, I clenched my files so tightly in my arms that they hurt me. I bowed down to the judges. As an etiquette, walked slowly with the same bowed head and sat down on the last row chair. I kept my files on my lap now, looked ahead to watch an old, experienced lawyer, one Mr. Jain, arguing in his loudest tone, making hand gestures. I watched him with amaze. Gosh, I could do this. I felt like one meek mouse trying to hide in a hole somewhere, as there were two judges like tomcats sitting on the higher bench. For sure, at least one of these judges had created an impression of being supremely strict person who lashed out several times at arguing counsels during their arguments. This judge was an old man with square, small reading glasses which perpetually would remain on his nose. He would sit with one of his hands on the other judge's chair rest and look from the square glasses with his neck tilted downwards at the arguing counsels, forever interrupting them. The other judge had no specs, sat upright, listened to every argument and never asked any questions, but always wrote down his notes. Just 15 minutes for lunch break and my case number was announced. I was shivering with fright, was cold, had hundreds of butterflies hovering in my tummy. I was all alone. Sir left me in the desert, all alone. So unfair. I hated him at that moment. I chanted Hanuman Chalisa in my mind and got up. I was to approach the throne and please the lords, and just when I opened my mouth to say, Your Honours, the specs wala judge stopped me and asked, Where's your senior? Are you an advocate? This is a final argument. I hope your senior knows what he has done. I was stammering and I said, My lord, it is my first day of practice. My seniors travelling and entrusted me to handle the final hearing. Bus, hearing this, he perhaps probably thought of having some fun at my stake in that serious atmosphere and said, No wonder you do not know the dress code in this court. I was confused. I said, My lordship, if I may ask, I'm confused. The judge pointed out that I was to wear a gown which I had not. I knew that in tribunals it was not compulsory to wear gowns as it was exempted, but had no guts to answer back and ended up saying, Apologies, my lord. I shall remember next time. Now I was shivering more and was almost teary. I got all my strength together and started again. Your Honor, this case is about tax credits. When he interrupted me again, he said, Miss New Advocate, don't you know the new rule we made yesterday? You are to provide us with synopsis of the submissions, arguments you want to make. This specs-wala judge now looked down at me, removed his specs and sighed. I was trembling now, started crying, tears rolling down my eyes. There was a stunned, awkward silence in this entire courtroom. When the other judge came to my rescue and said, let us break for lunch. Shilpa, you can argue post-lunch. We will sit again. I bowed down, and once the judges left, I ran to the washroom and cried and cried and cried. I felt my first failure. I hated sir. I decided after this case never enter the courtroom again to argue. I composed myself. I came out of the washroom when the sepoy informed me the other judge had summoned me to his chambers. I was reluctant, but no choice left. I knocked the door of his chambers. This judge was calm. He asked me to sit across, gave me a glass of water. He spoke, child, never get scared of anything and anyone ever. This is just a court of law, and we judges are here to give you justice. We go by the facts and evidence. It is your first day, and you are the youngest and a woman in this entire courtroom. I absolutely understand your anxiety. We are making you strong. But remember, if you have good grounds, justifiable arguments, you will win, always. So argue with confidence and express well without tears. Your client's case is at stake. Give him justice. He then smiled and said, remember, from today, you are awesome. I absolutely needed this. Felt so good with this pep talk. It was like a guiding angel helping me gain back my confidence. I said thank you to him and proceeded to take prints of the synopsis I'd already made. It was time to enter the court again. This time, no butterflies in my tummy. My neck was straight up and my files held casually in my hand. The judges took seat. Both of them smiled at me. My case number was called out. I bowed down, looked up with a smile, and handed over the synopsis and made my submissions in an authoritative voice, placing the case laws, arguing, making an eye contact with the judges. And yes, I won my first case. In terms of confidence, I never looked back from that day. By the way, I'm still the awesome. So friends, do you know what makes Hulk afraid? It is a version of himself that is weak. So put your future in good hands. Your own. Hasta la vista. See you in my next video of Choppy Tales.